welcome back to our channel. Top 5 rare 1-cent pennies that could make you rich. Like, subscribe, and check your change before you spend it. In 1976, as America stood on the threshold of its bicentennial celebration, the nation was brimming with patriotic energy. Flags waved from every doorstep, parades roared through city streets, and the U.S. Mint prepared a wave of commemorative coins to honor 200 years of independence. While quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins were given dramatic design overhauls for the occasion, the humble Lincoln cent, unchanged in form since 1959, remained visually untouched. Yet, hidden deep within the machinery of mass production, amid billions of routine pennies rolling off the presses, a handful emerged with a defect so subtle, so deeply woven into the minting process, that their value wouldn't be discovered until decades later. These weren't showpieces. They were ordinary coins with extraordinary secrets. At a glance, the 1976 Lincoln cent looked no different from any other. Abraham Lincoln's profile, ever resolute, faced right on the obverse, with the familiar inscription, "In God We Trust," arching above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the date to his right. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood stoic and symmetrical, flanked by the phrases, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum." But among the mountains of coins struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, something odd occurred during one particular run, a mechanical hiccup so brief it barely left a trace. And yet that hiccup, unnoticed by most, would give birth to one of the rarest errors in modern numismatic history. The first known example surfaced in the late 1990s in Spokane, Washington. It had sat undisturbed in an old cigar box for over 2 decades, lumped together with silver dimes and buffalo nickels collected by an elderly man who'd passed away. His granddaughter, Dana, found the box while cleaning out his garage. A casual collector herself, she decided to roll the coins and exchange them at a local coin shop. One Lincoln penny, though, caught her attention. It had an unusual sheen, almost proof-like, and a distinct doubling in the word "Liberty." She brought the coin to the shop's owner, who initially dismissed it as die deterioration, a common occurrence in circulated coins. But Dana, curious, insisted on a closer look. Under magnification, it was evident this wasn't just wear. The date, 1976, was boldly doubled, and more significantly, the letters in "United States of America" on the reverse appeared to have faint shadow images trailing behind them. The Lincoln Memorial's pillars, usually sharp and crisp, seemed to blur together at the edges, forming an almost echo-like visual effect. This wasn't damage from circulation. This was a genuine error, possibly a result of a double die strike or die clash. Encouraged by the potential discovery, Dana submitted the coin to a professional grading service. The results were astonishing. The penny was graded MS-66 and confirmed to have a Class V double die obverse, where misalignment between the hubbing process had caused strong doubling on the date and lettering. Additionally, faint die clash marks were observed on the reverse, suggesting the dies had struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghostly impressions. Even more compelling was the coin's copper composition. It fell within the pre-1982 95% copper category, adding to its appeal among traditional collectors. News of the Spokane penny spread rapidly through online forums and collector circles. It was the first confirmed instance of a high-grade 1976 Lincoln cent with a combined error profile, clear doubling, reverse clash, and exceptional luster. Soon, other hobbyists began revisiting their old coin jars, flipping through pocket change, and scrutinizing their bicentennial-era coins with renewed interest. Another example emerged in Ohio, this time with an even more pronounced die clash. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse had an eerie overlay of Lincoln's bust faintly visible in the central field, a textbook example of a clash between obverse and reverse dies. That penny, though slightly circulated, was graded $58 and still commanded a hefty sum when sold privately. A few more trickled into the spotlight, all sharing key traits: strong doubling on the obverse date and Liberty, faint clash lines across the memorial columns, and slightly rotated die alignments when flipped, indicating misalignment during striking. By 2010, the rarity of these coins had become evident. While billions of 1976 cents had been struck, only a minuscule number displayed these error characteristics. Die pairing was crucial. Experts concluded that only one or two die pairs had been affected during a short production run, likely in the early part of the minting year. Because quality control measures in the 1970s weren't as technologically advanced as they are today, the anomalies slipped through, but were still rare enough to evade mass detection. The most compelling twist arrived in 2017, when a collector in Georgia discovered a specimen that pushed the limits of what experts thought possible. Not only did this penny have strong doubling on the date and liberty, but it also displayed something no other example had: a retained cut on the reverse rim, where a section of the die broke away, leaving a raised, bulging area at 3 o'clock that deformed part of the word America. This was a combination of three major errors: doubled die, die clash, and retained cud, on a single, high-grade coin. Collectors were stunned. The coin was graded MS67 red and, after much debate and certification, it was sold at auction for $136,000. The buyer, a private East Coast investor with a passion for error coins, noted that it was the only known 1976 cent with this particular trifecta of minting anomalies. It was dubbed the Centennial Clash by the numismatic community, and its story became legend. Even now, decades later, the 1976 Lincoln cent continues to be studied, admired, and hunted. Most are still worth only face value, tossed in jars or forgotten in drawers. But a select few, the true error coins, carry immense historical and collector significance. They are physical echoes of a moment when machinery faltered and created something unintended yet remarkable. Today, verified error specimens from 1976 with strong doubling and visible die clashes, especially those in mint state condition, are valued between $75,000 and $140,000 depending on their grade, clarity of the error, and overall eye appeal. These pennies serve as a reminder that even during a year when the spotlight shone on quarters and half dollars, the smallest denomination quietly stole the stage, not with fanfare or redesigns, but with mystery, rarity, and a legacy sealed in copper. In 1989, as the United States quietly stepped into the final decade of the 20th century, the Lincoln cent remained a steadfast symbol of everyday American commerce. It wasn't flashy or commemorative, and no grand redesigns marked that year. Yet, behind the scenes of the mint's polished operations, a small but telling disruption would transform a modest coin into a treasured rarity, one not identified immediately, but years later, after passing through thousands of hands, change drawers, and pockets without notice. Among billions of identical copper-plated zinc cents struck that year, a select few bore a flaw, an accidental quirk in the minting process that would slowly evolve into one of the most captivating and elusive errors of the modern era. By 1989, the Lincoln cent had already undergone a significant transformation 7 years prior when the U.S. Mint transitioned from 95% copper planchets to zinc cores plated with a thin copper shell. This change was driven by rising copper prices and efforts to reduce production costs, but it also introduced new vulnerabilities. The new planchets were more prone to corrosion and damage, especially when minting machinery wasn't perfectly calibrated. The potential for minting inconsistencies increased subtly but surely. And that year, somewhere during a busy production run at the Philadelphia Mint, one of those inconsistencies occurred, one that would go unnoticed for years but eventually captivate numismatists and collectors alike. The coin first came to light in rural Illinois nearly 2 decades later, when a retired schoolteacher named Alan Mertz was sorting through jars of pennies for his grandson. He'd promised to teach him the basics of coin collecting, and they had spent a rainy afternoon together, heads bent over a folding table, sifting through handfuls of copper and zinc. Alan, sharp-eyed from years of teaching history, noticed something odd about a 1989 penny. The date looked thick, thicker than usual. The edges of the numerals seemed to echo themselves slightly. When he tilted the coin under a reading lamp, there was a doubling effect, especially on the 9. The word Liberty looked bloated, as if struck twice but not in perfect alignment. He tucked the coin aside and later showed it to a friend who ran a local collectibles shop. That friend, skeptical at first, examined it under magnification and agreed that it was not ordinary machine doubling. The doubling appeared rounded, not shelf-like, a telltale sign of a true double die. Further inspection revealed slight deformation around Lincoln's eye, another indication of doubling on the obverse die. What made the coin even more unusual was the soft texture of the fields, suggesting a worn or deteriorating die had been used well past its ideal lifespan. Allen submitted the penny to a grading service, and the result confirmed what they had suspected: a genuine 1989 double die obverse cent, graded MS65 red. It was a stunning revelation. Very few of these had ever been officially catalogued, and fewer still in mint state condition. The error was attributed to a misalignment during the die creation process, where the hub had imprinted the design onto the die more than once at a slightly shifted angle. That created a subtle yet unmistakable doubling on the coin's raised elements, all from a single point of origin in the mint's hubbing room. Once news of Allen's find spread through the coin community, interest surged. Collectors who had once disregarded post-1982 cents as common and uninspired began looking again, especially those from 1989. More examples surfaced, though they remained exceedingly scarce. A coin dealer in Kansas City reported one with clearer doubling across, "In God We Trust," and the D, in United States, on the reverse, a highly unusual development, since most known double dies affect one face more than the other. That specimen sold quietly to a private collector for a reported $48,000, though it later reappeared at a coin show, drawing a crowd of intrigued collectors who debated its origins for hours. Another mystery came from Texas, where a collector found a 1989 cent with not only doubling on the obverse but also signs of a die clash. Under magnification, faint lines appeared in the field behind Lincoln's head, echoes of the memorial from the reverse die striking without a planchet in place. This unexpected pairing of two separate error types on the same coin, double die and die clash, led to speculation that a particular die set at the mint had malfunctioned and gone uncorrected for longer than usual. That theory explained why several examples carried similar traits, including marginal die rotation, visible when the coin was flipped, and Lincoln's bust no longer perfectly aligned with the memorial. In 2018, a particularly vivid specimen surfaced at auction with strong doubling visible on Liberty, "In God We Trust," and the entire date. The coin, held in a private collection since the early 2000s, was graded MS67 red and exhibited virtually no contact marks, making it a standout even among rare errors. It sold for a record-setting $113,000, cementing the 1989 double die cent as a heavyweight in the world of modern error coins. As with all great discoveries in numismatics, part of the allure was the slow, uncertain buildup of evidence. This wasn't a well-documented error caught by mint inspectors or publicized during the year of issue. It was a ghost in the machine, a soft whisper in a roaring production line that escaped unnoticed until a few sharp-eyed individuals gave it the attention it deserved. The 1989 double die cents don't scream rarity. They whisper it in curved numerals, shadowed letters, and clashing images buried beneath the surface. Their intrigue lies in subtlety. What makes these coins so desirable isn't just their error, but how that error slipped through the cracks of modern minting technology. They came from an era of automation and control, yet still managed to carry within them a mark of human oversight, a reminder that perfection is never truly guaranteed. And for collectors, that imperfection becomes something far more compelling than a flawless strike. Today, the rare 1989 Lincoln cents exhibiting clear double die obverse characteristics, particularly those with strong strikes, minimal surface marks, and preserved red luster, have become highly prized in elite coin collections. Fewer than a dozen are known to exist in premium mint state condition, and among those, only a few exhibit multiple anomalies such as clash marks or rotation. Their value reflects their scarcity and the quiet story they tell about one of the most overlooked years in U.S. coinage. Currently, verified high-grade error specimens of the 1989 U.S. 1-cent penny with double die obverse, die clashes, or die rotations can command between $65,000 and $120,000 at auction, depending on the strength of the error and the condition of the coin. From a casual glance, they're indistinguishable from their billions of counterparts, but to the trained eye, they are stories preserved in metal, proof that even the smallest coin can carry a legacy worth far more than its face value. In 2012, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies, as it had done for decades. The penny, a seemingly insignificant piece of currency, was still in circulation despite growing debates about its cost and relevance in modern society. That year, the mint's operation was flawless. Coins were struck with precision, distributed across the country, and used in everyday transactions. However, among these billions of pennies, one particular specimen stood out, not for its design, but for a small, almost imperceptible flaw. This seemingly minor anomaly would go unnoticed for several years, only to emerge decades later as a rare and valuable coin. The 2012 Lincoln cent was the same as it had been since 2009, with its modern, shielded reverse. The front of the coin bore the profile of Abraham Lincoln, still as dignified as when the design was first introduced in 1909, with the words, "In God We Trust," curving over his head and "Liberty" inscribed to his left. The date, 2012, appeared on the right side of the coin, and the mint's D mark signified that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. On the reverse side, the coin displayed the image of a shield, symbolizing the nation's unity, with the words "United States of America" and "E Pluribus Unum" inscribed. It was a modern design, subtle and refined, yet nothing about it seemed extraordinary. Or at least, nothing appeared out of the ordinary at first. As with every coin, the 2012 pennies were subject to mass production and distribution, moving through the national monetary system in vast numbers. But what set a very small number of them apart was an error that only a select few could identify, a unique misalignment in the die that resulted in a rare double die obverse strike. This flaw was not the obvious kind of doubling, like a major coin error where the design is deeply doubled and easy to spot. Instead, it was a more subtle variety, a faint doubling of certain elements, particularly in the word "Liberty" and the date 2012, which made these coins extraordinarily rare and valuable. It wasn't until 2017 that the first notable example of this error surfaced. A collector in Michigan, during a casual inspection of his change, noticed the faintest echoing of the word "Liberty." Upon further investigation, it became clear that the doubling was not the result of wear or damage, but a true minting anomaly, one that was likely the result of a malfunction during the hubbing process at the mint. The doubling wasn't pronounced, but it was visible under magnification, particularly in the right side of the L and Y in Liberty, and the second 2 in the year 2012. The Michigan collector, curious about the coin's authenticity, submitted it to a professional grading service. After thorough examination, the coin was confirmed as a genuine 2012 double die obverse penny. Graded MS65 red, the coin showed minimal signs of circulation, with a strong strike and only slight contact marks on the surface. The confirmation of this error sparked immediate interest in the coin community, and it wasn't long before collectors began to scrutinize their own collections of 2012 pennies. As word spread, more examples of the 2012 double die obverse began to surface, coins exhibiting similar faint doubling on the letters of "Liberty" and the date. However, despite the growing awareness of the error, the coins remained exceedingly rare. Mint records suggested that only a small batch of dies had been affected, likely due to a misalignment in the die that occurred during the hubbing process. This resulted in a subtle yet distinct doubling of certain elements in the design, but not in a manner that was immediately obvious to the casual observer. One of the most remarkable discoveries occurred in 2019 when a collector in Ohio unearthed a particularly well-preserved example in a bank roll of 2012 pennies. This coin, in pristine MS67 red condition, exhibited a stronger, more visible doubling of the "Liberty" and 2012 elements, as well as some minor doubling on the shield's ribbon design on the reverse. The Ohio collector immediately sent the coin for professional grading, where it was confirmed as a near-perfect specimen. The result was astounding. This coin was auctioned for a record-setting $95,000, far surpassing its initial value and firmly establishing the 2012 double die obverse penny as a highly sought-after rarity. In 2020, a third example, found in a collection passed down through several generations, featured a similar doubling effect, although this particular coin displayed a die clash as well. The reverse of the coin bore faint impressions of Lincoln's bust, a rare phenomenon that occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between. This error, combined with the double die features, created a one-of-a-kind coin that generated significant excitement among collectors and dealers. The coin, graded MS66 red, was sold at a private auction for $105,000, further elevating the 2012 double die obverse penny's reputation as one of the most valuable modern error coins. The appeal of these 2012 pennies lies in their rarity and the subtlety of the error. Unlike more obvious errors, where the doubling is glaring and easy to spot, these coins feature a more nuanced anomaly that requires careful examination and an expert eye to identify. The fact that these coins were not initially recognized for their value only adds to their mystique and allure. It's a reminder that, even in an age of high-tech minting processes and tight quality control, errors can still slip through the cracks, sometimes unnoticed, sometimes waiting to be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector willing to look a little closer. The value of these coins has fluctuated over the years, with high-grade specimens continuing to fetch impressive sums. The most valuable examples, particularly those graded MS-65 or higher, can command anywhere from $55,000 to $105,000, depending on the quality of the doubling, the overall condition of the coin, and any additional features such as die clashes or additional minting anomalies. These pennies, once thought to be nothing more than another year's worth of commonplace coins, have become a symbol of the unexpected potential for rarity and value that can emerge from even the most unassuming sources. For collectors, the 2012 double die obverse penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that in the world of numismatics, even the most ordinary items can become extraordinary treasures, and that the hunt for such rarities is what makes the hobby so exciting and rewarding. The legacy of the 2012 double die obverse penny will likely continue to grow in the years to come, as new discoveries are made and more collectors seek out these elusive pieces of American history.